I'll just use these 5 minutes. I should look at my clock. 5 minutes to really quickly introduce the research project I've been working on for the past almost 2 years now. We started at the beginning of 2012. And this involves using text mining, and particularly a form of text mining that geolocates every mention of a place in text to explore the expansion of commodity frontiers around the world during the 19th century. So this connects to my doctoral research in the environmental history of East London, where I focused on the environmental consequences of the industrialization of this region, what happened locally, the social consequences of living in a very dirty, polluted environment. And I thought I might try to invert that project and explore the global consequences of these same factories. So the initial research, this is the map I made early on, was just to look at all the factories in a GIS database I'd created and try and guess where the various products were coming from. And this is just an approximation of of 9 large factories that seemed like they'd have an interesting supply chain, and gives you a sense that over the 19th century, London's industry comes to rely on a broad, well, really on commodity frontiers all over the world to supply a wide range of products. So that research idea turned into this sort of core historical question, and digging into data grant application. We made it about the same time. And really the idea was, how do we explore, go beyond looking at sort of the 10 big commodities that everybody studies: sugar, coffee, rubber, cotton, and a few others, and try and explore 400 or 1,000 commodities that were circulating around the British world during the 19th century. And I say British world particularly because that's the data we're using. We're using British parliamentary papers and Canadian digital digitized records. So the total number of pages is around 10 million, mostly focused on the British Empire. And this gives you a quick idea of the corpus we're working with. And this is the sort of fairly light text mining. It's not the most complicated text mining, partly because the data is so messy. 19th century documents have huge OCR problems, so the computational linguistics people we're working with suggested we take a sort of get as much data as we can and keep the text mining quite simple. So we do named entity recognition. We try and find all the places and all the commodities. I don't have time to explain how we came up with the list of commodities, but that was where historians were actually useful. And then we look for the relationship between these places and these commodities, and do entity grounding. We use something called the Edinburgh GeoParser that tries to guess which Victoria. Victoria is probably the hardest one to throw at them because there's also a queen that shows up in a lot of these documents. And we're still trying to figure out just how accurate it is for the 19th century. It was designed for 21st century place names, but most of the time it seems to be working. This is just a quick example of a sentence on how it works. Currently we're just using the publication date. We're going to try and make that more complicated going forward. It finds a place, it finds a commodity, cinchona, and it brings it out into a relational database and brings in the latitude and longitude, which then allows us to map these products. So this is some Kew Garden letters. It's actually the cleanest data we have because it's actually been done by humans. And this is just looking at coffee and Liberian coffee. And in about 1870, as a disease hits Arabian coffee, you see a new interest in Liberian coffee and in different locations around the world as people at Kew tried to explore a solution to the coffee rust crisis. And that's all I'll tell you about in 5 minutes. But I've got lots more to say if you want to ask questions later.